and Kelly do a coffee commercial, and it becomes quite popular, and he becomes, everyone's chasing after him. So my character is obsessed with Jefferson and busts into the house and jumps on his lap in the first opening shot.
There he is! It's Lance, Mr. Romantic Rose Coffee Guy!
Yeah, and can you tell us, how did the opportunity come about for you to get cast in Married with Children?
Yeah, it was actually really interesting because I was doing a lot of background work. I just moved to LA. I didn't know anybody. And so I was doing a lot of background work, and I did a couple of episodes of background work on Married with Children, and a director named Sam Orender, he was directing that episode. And I had back in the day, we had like the actual headshots and with resume. And at the end of the show, which is not really anything background actors are supposed to do, I approached the director because we had sort of been chatting all day and we're kind of friendly. And I just gave him my headshot and I said, if you ever need a funny Italian girl from New Jersey on the show, I would love the opportunity to audition. And he told me later on, he just took the headshot and just sort of tossed it in the basket when he was leaving of the casting office. And they called me in. And when I got to the audition, it was, I want to say 100 girls. It was very intimidating. It was like 100 of the most beautiful girls you've ever seen. And I was, waiting for my turn to go in. And the line, which actually didn't wind up in the episode, but the line was something about Al Bundy. And it was sort of like a derogatory, like, oh, I know you. You're the foul shoe salesman down at the mall. And when I went in, and it was all the executive producers and the producers and the writers, it was a packed room. And I did the line, and the executive producer said to me, "You're the first girl today to say that line correctly. Did you know that?" And I said, "No," and he said, "Great job." And he told me he loved my headshot, and that was it. And I went downstairs, and back in the day, we had pagers. And as I was driving home, my pager went off and I called the number and they told me I got the part.
That's impossible. This map to the star's home says he lives alone.
Give me that. What lowlife would sell you this?
Okay, so fortune favors the brave, dare I say, in terms of taking a chance and putting yourself out there in life. And in appearing in a hit comedy TV show, a cable show that was seen across all America, how was that like for you and family and loved ones? Obviously, Married with Children at that stage, a much acclaimed show, season 10, well known throughout the States in terms of that. Did that open potential doors for you? Did it unlock potential opportunities in the aftermath of that episode?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I will say is that, I was different than some of the other girls because I was a very young mom. So I already had 2 sons. I was a single mom at that point. So my sons actually came to the show and they were big fans. They were big fans of Kelly Bundy, the 2 of them. They were like young preteen boys and they had a crush on Kelly. And so it was a big deal in my family that like mom was on Married with Children, and they came to the taping of the show. And Christina Applegate was so sweet. She brought him over and gave him a signed autographed picture of herself. And they were just, they were very impressed because it was my first audition in LA and it was my first booking. So it was a big deal. And I will say, like, it was a big deal for me because I had watched the show since I ever even thought about being an actress. I was living in New Jersey and I watched the first episode. It was when Fox had released all these shows and Married with Children was one of them. And we were big fans of the show, and sitting on that couch was just like a surreal moment for me. It was like, oh, I watched this on TV and now here I am. But a lot of the writers brought me in for other projects that they worked on. One of the writers, Calvin Brown, brought me in for basically everything he worked on. So I got a lot of auditions and got recognized, which was kind of funny in my complex. People were like, "Were you on Married with Children?" Because I was sort of seen in my complex as like a mom, not really like an actress. So that was kind of fun.
And I imagine when you're on take in terms of that and you're seeing a comedy show and a live show appearing before a live studio audience in terms of that, and you're seeing the one-liners and the humor as well. And you mentioned being a fan of the show. Was it hard to get into that sort of zone and keep a straight face and think, right, professional job is that I not need to zone in on my part and not get caught up in the whole atmosphere and the whole occasion, or part of you think that, right, I've waited so long for this opportunity, I need to soak it up and enjoy it at the same time as well?
Yeah, I mean, I was a performer my whole life. I was a singer. That was my career for a long time. So I really knew, even when I was singing on stage, I would do, jokes and comedy, entertain the crowd. So I kind of knew how to sort of keep that straight face and all that. But I will say what was interesting was when we were in the scene, there was a lot of other, background actors in the scene with me. And, I saw them like trying to like give me a pencil and be my friend. And I was like, I can't do anything for you. I was where you were last week. Like, it was just interesting to be like sort of the treated differently. You're treated differently when you're a guest star on a show than when you're a background actor. And so it was like very surreal that I had like sort of arrived in a way, even though it was such a short period of time. But the cast was amazing and so nice to the guest cast. We were not made to feel like we weren't a part of the family. And Ed O'Neill was, I was a little disappointed because Katie Segal, who played Peg Bundy, she was on maternity leave, so I didn't get to work with her. But Ed O'Neill was great, and everyone in the supporting cast was really, really warm and friendly to us, which was nice.
And obviously, a family show. And one thing that struck me about Married with Children, and I know there was a previous actor told me that you probably experienced that there was a bit of tension between Amanda Bierce and Ed O'Neill towards the latter stages. But in terms of the Bundy family and themselves, Ed O'Neill, David Faustino, Christina Applegate, they almost could pass as a real family in terms of how they got on, in terms of their affection, their humor. You're almost meant to believe that was a real family, that they were all sort of gel in sync with each other, and they all had that sort of harmony and affection towards each other.
Yeah, I think when you work on a series, and I've worked on a lot of sitcoms, Everybody Loves Raymond and Friends and Veronica's Closet and Norm Show, when you go season after season with people, I think you do become a family in a sense. I've been on some of like the finale episodes, and people, even the crew and everything, it's really hard. It's hard to move on because you see these people every single day, and TV shows take so long to make that you're spending arguably more time with them than you are with your actual family. So, and I think the riffs and the not getting along, it's just like a real family. It happens, there's arguments and tension. I didn't experience any of that when I was there. It was everyone was pretty in a good mood and happy. But yeah, it happens.
When you hear the stories, and when you hear, if I mention names now to you, in terms of Hollywood actresses getting their first break in terms of Married with Children, their first credit, Mila Jovovich from the Resident Evil series, Denise Richards, her first credit on Married with Children as well, to name a few, and predominant actresses throughout the decades, Krista Allen, Pamela Anderson, they all sort of appeared in terms of Married with Children, their first acting. It was almost like Married with Children was open doors. It provided so many opportunities for young female actresses to go on and get their break, and sort of big things came off it as well. So when you're here, when you obviously had a guest role, and you're one of those actresses that appeared in Married with Children, does it almost feel like a fraternity or sisterhood that you can relate to some of those names? That Denise Richards was in the same shoes as yourself, Mila Jovovich was in the same shoes as yourself, and they all owe Married with Children some bit of gratitude for their careers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's great to get your break and get your start, but I think a lot of times, for as many stories, success stories as there are where the people go on and do other things, it kind of depends on where you're at in the business. A lot of those people, I think, probably already had that, that rising star. So this was just maybe the thing that kind of gave them that one more credit, because television credits are very important to get. They're hard to get, but they're important to get for a series. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know any of them. I know Krista Allen, I know. But I mean, I've heard of all of them, but I don't know them all personally. Krista's the only one I know personally. But I think it's a grind for actresses in general, and now it's even harder than it was then. It's getting that one, and even when you start to get your career going, it's like you're only as good as your last job. So even after that job ends, then you have to, I mean, look at some of the, Christina Applegate and what she's had to do and create series and become producer on series to get things going. It's not an easy road, no matter what shows you're on, I think.
Yeah. And Andrea Nittoli, before we came on air, you mentioned a project that you're working on at the moment in terms of you might be able to enlighten our Irish audience and listeners that where we can see and what can we expect from Andrea Nittoli in 2024.
Yeah, so I wrote a project called True North that I'm planning on directing. And so it'll be the first thing that I've written, directed, and produced. And it's called True North. And as soon as it's out there, you can find it all over my social media. I'm on the Andrea Nittoli everywhere. So I'll be posting when it starts, once we get into pre-production and then launching it forward. So yeah.
And I suppose, Andrea, to finish off now, one quick question for you in terms of your time spent on Married with Children, the set of Married with Children. If you could sum up the experience in 2 sentences, what would you like those 2 sentences to read?
I would say it was very exciting and a wonderful experience and a very fond memory that I'll never forget.